Welcome to my chat with Harry Miller. You may have seen him on the internet. He's taken up a legal challenge against the College of Policing in the UK. I hope you've got the kettle on and you get yourself a nice cup of tea or coffee, and I hope you enjoy this chat.
I've got my coffee.
I've got my coffee. Cheers to you. So what are you up to now in terms of your legal crowdfunder?
Yeah, PC Gull came to my place of work because I tweeted a feminist limerick. Well, it wasn't even a limerick; it was a feminist verse. But he decided it was a limerick. Yeah, it was a song. Yeah, a verse of a song. Yeah. And he decided that this was indicative of my latent criminality, and he needed to turn up at my place of work to check my thinking. He said that I'd done nothing wrong, but nevertheless, he needed to check my thinking. And I'd said this is absolute nonsense. I tried to school him in George Orwell in 1984, but they don't teach George Orwell in 1984 apparently at Humberside, other than as a how-to manual, because it seems that they've taken the lessons learnt from Orwell's 1984 and decided that these are a great idea and we'll go and check people's thinking. And I said, we're not having any of it. Took them to court and whooped their asses. Unfortunately, their defence was we were following the College of Police guidelines, so we had to behave in this way. So we took the College of Policing to the High Court at the same time. Now, for some bizarre reason, the judge ruled that whilst following the guidelines was most definitely illegal, the guidelines themselves were legal. We find that a little bit odd. So we're challenging that, and we're at the Court of Appeal in 3 weeks' time, less than 3 weeks' time actually. March the 8th to the 10th, challenging the police guidelines, because we say that you can't possibly have guidelines which are legal, but following them is illegal. That's just not logical. So we think we've got a very good case against the College of Policing. And unfortunately, all these things take vast amounts of money, like huge amounts of money. We're not talking about tens of thousands of pounds, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds. And that's why we've got the crowd justice thing going. Now, the reason I chose crowd justice was I have absolutely no access to that account whatsoever. It's purely between crowd justice and the solicitor. So, nobody can accuse me of running off and jumping on a boat or lying in my own pocket or anything like that. So that's why we use crowd justice.
Or getting lip fillers and Botox.
Yeah, I could probably do with lip fillers and Botox, couldn't I? Quite frankly,
No, you just get some of that.
Probably a new wig. I'm getting a little bit bald. But there we go.
You could just get some of that spicy lip gloss. I got some recently. It was like this filling lip gloss stuff. And I thought what it does is it just plumps your lips up a little bit. But what it actually does is cause an allergic reaction, and it stings like hell. Nobody told me it stings. Yeah, I only put it on. I only got to put it on because I got some eyeliner and some eye makeup and stuff. I don't know why I'm going into this, but I got some makeup. And I got this little lip gloss for free with it. And I thought, I'll just try it before bed, just because I was pottering about, I was bored. Put some lip gloss on, and it stung like fuck. I was up till like 2 a.m. complaining about it on Twitter.
Well, can I just say, I'm not really one to give style advice, but here's the thing: don't use Gorilla Glue on your hair. Did you see that? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. I didn't read it.
No, that stuff's glue on her hair.
These are
terrible.
Dude was doing a gig and he sliced his finger open just before the gig, and he plays guitar with that hand. And we got the Gorilla Glue out, and I tried to glue it back together, and I glued his fingers. And then when he played the gig, he sliced it open again on the guitar string, and all the blood went all over his guitar. It was the most punk I've ever seen him.
That's real. That's proper punk. Yeah, that's full on. Yeah,
that's Sid Vicious.
That's Sid Vicious. That's Johnny. That is. Love it.
That's proper shit. I was going to ask you, what exactly is it that the College of Policing have ruled that you're opposing?
Okay, so the College of Police guidance, they have this thing called the hate crime guidance, and this instructs how police officers have to behave in relation to reports of hate. Now, first and foremost, let's start at the very beginning. You've got to have a reasonable definition of hate. If you're going to police hate, you better define it. Now, the College of Policing define hate as hostility, and they define hostility as including antagonism, unfriendliness, ill will, spite, and dislike. Well, that's nonsense. I mean, antagonism is a good thing. Antagonism is a necessary mechanism of a democratic society. You know, you say one thing, I say another, and we have an argument about it. That is antagonism.
I'll be honest.
Go on.
It's open to interpretation as well, because a lot of the things that even down to my artwork has been described as antagonistic, and that depends on the person who feels antagonized, because to antagonize someone, aren't you? You're assuming their intent, aren't you?
Well, this is the thing. You don't have to prove or have any evidence of intent whatsoever. It's all down to this thing called perception-based recording. So if somebody feels antagonized by your artwork or somebody's poem or my comment or simply by my presence on a platform, that's enough for the police to act, because it's perception-based recording. No evidence of hate is required. That's what the guidance says. So you can be guilty of a hate incident by publishing your art. If somebody decides that your art is transphobic or racist or homophobic or disableist or ageist, then they can say this is hate, and the police have to record it as hate, and the police will put your name down as being the perpetrator of hate. And there is no appeal that you can make, and there is no evidence required whatsoever. And we just think that is fundamentally, well, it's unjust on one level, but it's absolutely bonkers on another level.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, totally, absolutely, totally. Now, I'm a free speech absolutist. I think I am.
I think I am as well. I think that sounds right to me, and also from what I know about or what I'm learning about the free speech argument, I think that's where I stand on it at the moment. I could change my mind in the future.
Yeah.
I change my mind on loads of things depending on new information. But at the moment, I think that's where a lot of us have to stand, because our freedom of speech is at risk. I would say it's at risk now.
Yeah, there are already law. I mean, I don't believe in shouting fire in a crowded cinema. That's not free speech. That's just lunacy. Neither do I believe in walking down the streets and calling people names. That's not the kind of free speech that I'm interested in. I'm certainly not into the kind of free speech which calls for jihad or holy war or anything like that. I think that's nonsense. I'm entirely against the kind of free speech which calls for white supremacists to go and make trouble for black people. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here
a lot of those
is
things,
the expression of opinion.
A lot of those things are not. Yeah, a lot of those things, I would say there are laws against a lot of things like that. Like,
absolutely.
For example, if I was to say, let's punch a Nazi, for example, a lot of people think that it's fine to say that. I was against it when that was going around, the punch a Nazi thing, and I didn't have the language to articulate why I didn't like that narrative. But I think the reason I don't like it is because everybody who's saying that thinks it's okay to say that because, oh, it's a Nazi, we don't like Nazis, of course. But how would you like it if that sort of narrative was turned on you? And a lot of people don't get it. Like, I was trying to explain to people at the time that people call me a Nazi. They think I'm a Nazi. And the people I was discussing this with, they were saying to me, oh, don't be stupid. You're not a Nazi. I know you're not a Nazi. And I said, you know I'm not a Nazi. But somebody who hears that I'm a Nazi doesn't know that I'm not a Nazi. So
exactly.
And so when we come into that
it's an
sort
interesting
of speech,
one, that.
when it comes
That's
into
why
that
I say
sort of
I'm not
speech,
sure.
it's different. It's different. If somebody put up punch a Nazi, if somebody put up punch Birdie, punch famous artist Birdie Rowe, and then somebody punched me, I would consider that to cross the line, but I wouldn't consider that necessarily a freedom of speech issue, because that is engaging in an actual crime that already exists.
I agree. I would say the line is that punch a Nazi is okay. Punch that Nazi is entirely wrong. You see that there's a sort of a subtle difference, isn't there? Because one is clearly targeted, and certainly punch Birdie Rose is undisputably wrong, isn't it? I mean, completely.
Okay, yeah.
But there are subtle lines here. Now, for instance, punch a Nazi. I think it's horrible. People call other people Nazis, and they've absolutely no idea what a Nazi actually was. Jacob Rees-Mogg is not a Nazi. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a Nazi. You're not a Nazi. Tommy Robinson's not a Nazi. The Nazis were real, vile, nasty, well thought out, ideological lunatics who built death camps and chartered trains to put other people they didn't like on them and exterminate them. That's what a Nazi is. So, there's you can be horrible, you can be racist, you can be all kinds of things. But Nazi, wow, that's quite an accusation, actually, and that's why I resist it.
I think, I resist that sort of language as well, and the fascism, fascist, that being thrown around. And what I was trying to say as well is that people were justifying the punch a Nazi because Nazis are bad, whereas my argument was I wouldn't necessarily go on the internet and advocate to punch anybody, really. That's like saying punch homophobes, punch racists. I don't care how you feel about them and how outrageous you think they are. I'm not going to advocate to punch anybody. And I don't know where that really sits on freedom of speech, because people use that sort of rhetoric. They'll say, oh, you're only advocating for freedom of speech because you want to incite violence or advocate for bad things, like you said, like white supremacy and things like that. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think most people know the difference between a general punch a Nazi, which I think is horrible, but it's not top of my list of things that I would criminalize, quite frankly. Punch that Nazi.
I don't think
definitely.
I don't think it should be criminalised to say it, but I don't advocate for encouraging violence, but I don't think it should be criminalised to say it. Does that make sense? No. I think you should be able to say it. And a lot of people are saying that we can't say things like humans can't change sex or men can't magically turn into women. Are happy to say punch a Nazi. And then if you speak about freedom of speech, someone like me or you, we're accused of only wanting to speak about freedom of speech because we want to say disgusting things. But I think punch a Nazi is a disgusting thing to say, even if I don't like Nazis.
Well, my position is very clear. That I think that if you want to say trans women are women, and you want to put up a sign that's saying trans women are women, I think you're absolutely wrong. I think you're crazy. But I think you have got the absolute right to say that and to state your case and to make your argument without being platformed, without being threatened, insulted, or having your speech curbed in any way, shape, or form. That's my opinion.
I agree.
If you want to talk about that, if you're a flat earther, or you're a COVID denier, or any of these things, then I think that you have an absolute right to say that. By the way, we've got an absolute right not to listen, and we've got an absolute right to laugh in your face. What we haven't got a right to do is to call the police and have you censured in any way, or arrested, or warned, or put on a hate list, which I'm currently on at the moment, and you're possibly on, Birdie. There's 120,000.
I think so.
Who are on these hate lists? That's just wrong. That's just wrong. So hold your nutty opinion That's absolutely fine. But you've got to allow me to have my opinion, whether it's nutty or not, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with the police. And this is so getting back to the police definition of antagonism, ill will and dislike and unfriendliness. These are crazy. This is a crazy measuring stick, an absolutely lunatic measuring stick. I mean, spite. What is spite? Spite, as far as I'm concerned, is when you decide to park outside somebody's front window to annoy them a little bit. That's spite, isn't it? It's not stabbing somebody.
Yeah. And
the whole McPherson report, the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, the whole hate crime legislation and guidance was not imagined to address these sort of things. It was imagined as a means to address the kind of horror that befell Stephen Lawrence, because the police had intelligence and weren't really able to use it. And so the hate crime guidance was meant to be a tool in order to stop actual crime taking place. It was not meant to be there to police your artwork or my opinion. But of course, it's so much easier going after you or me than it is stopping actual white supremacist lunatics who, for want of an opportunity, would stamp or hang somebody from a vulnerable group. That's my issue.
Yeah, I think it is easier to go after people like us. I think a lot of it is. A lot of it is like, it feels like some of it is false outrage as well. Like people are being like almost pretending they're outraged so that they look good. Because I know that I haven't done anything outrageous.
No, well, let's just take my case. I was reported by somebody allegedly from down south. They're not from down south. Who had contacted the homicide police because they were so concerned about the trans people in my workplace. Now, I work on Immingham Dock. All right. Now, I don't really think Immingham Dock has got that many trans people, if I'm honest. It's barely out of the 17th century. You know what I mean? It's proper hairy-arsed dockers, literally. So you kind of knew that was a load of bollocks. We just knew it was a load of bollocks, totally. In all the years that I've been in business, we've not had a single tribunal, not a single employment issue based on protected characteristics or anything like that at all, ever. Not one. So I just knew it was complete nonsense. But this is the thing: you don't need to evidence your complaint. The police have to believe you. So in my case, this person made this complaint, and they were instantly given police anonymity. Now that's dangerous. So you've got somebody who's accusing me of transphobia, who is furnishing the police with over 30 transphobic tweets, which causes me all kinds of trouble. And this person is given the name Mrs. B, and they're given police anonymity. Well, that's absolutely wrong, because the thing is, they're not a vulnerable person who is simply sticking up on behalf of a vulnerable community in the face of a dangerous person like me. Mrs. B is a lunatic, a highly motivated lunatic whose mission in life is to cause trouble for people like you and I. And whilst I'm not supposed to know who Mrs. B is, I know full well who Mrs. B is. The trouble is, if I announce who it is, I will have breached a court order. But, Mrs. B has been around for many years now, causing trouble all over the place. And, there are senior police officers in the Liverpool area who, when they leave their positions, let me know what's what. So I know who Mrs. B is, and I know that I'm not the first person that they've gone at, and I'm not the last person that they've gone at. And they've got a history of threatening all kinds of violence against women, and I'm just one in a list. But they've got this anonymity granted by the courts. I've got a letter between the Chief Constable of Humberside and Mrs. B, where the Chief Constable grants them anonymity even after the court case. It's terrible. These are well motivated lunatics who are being empowered by the police, and that's why we're standing against them.
I think that's quite dangerous, to give one group this much power over everybody else, essentially, because I do see it as power. I do think, or privilege, or whatever P word you want to use, you know, all these words that are overused now. But I do think people have power over somebody when they're able to report them to the police for not really doing anything that's breaking the law, and have it considered a crime, and keep their identity secret from the person that you're going after.
It's terrible.
I think
you know how
it's
long,
also
Bernie? You know how long it takes to report somebody online? I've done it. I've reported myself online, and it takes 3 minutes 45
it's very
seconds.
quick.
Yeah, you do it by the True Vision website. You don't need to give your details, and that's it. And once you've got a crime report lodged against somebody, it will stay on their record for at least 6 years and is disclosable via an enhanced CBS check.
Don't the police get sick of all this paperwork for things that are not real crimes, do you think? Maybe I need to interview a policeman for that.
It gives them a quick win. It makes their figures look good. They've logged all these hate incidents. Whoopee! Aren't we doing well? But we did a recent freedom of information request to every force in England and Wales, asking them how successful these non-crime hate incidents had been in preventing crime. They've no idea. There's not a single crime.
So they're not even keeping track.
No, they're not. They're not keeping track. They're not analysing. We asked them a number of questions. One of which was, how many non-crime hate incidents have then gone on to escalate to crime? And they're like, we've no idea what you're talking about. Well, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Non-crime hate incidents are there as an indicator toward escalation of crime. They're there for you to monitor and analyse. So how successful has that been? And they go, we didn't even know we were supposed to be doing that. Well, that's the entire basis that you're collecting them. Secondly, in your opinion, Chief Constable, how many crimes do you think have been prevented as a result of collecting non-crime hate incidents? And the answer came back 0. So they've collected 120,000 non-crime hate incidents since 2014, have done no analysis, no evaluation, and have prevented no crime whatsoever. None. Absolutely 0. We've got it in black and white. That can't be right. That's why we're challenging it.
But like you said, it comes down to the definition of what is a hate incident. What is hate? How are they defining it?
Yeah, well, I say ill will, unfriendliness, and dislike. So you say,
everybody's guilty of that.
Well, here's the thing. This is how it was in the old Soviet Union. Okay, the standards in the old Soviet Union were set so high that Stalin himself wouldn't have been able to achieve the bar of acceptability. So if nobody can achieve the bar of acceptability, then it's down to a few people in power, there's that P word for you again, to decide which people we're going to go and prosecute, which people we're going to go and persecute, which people we're going to go put on a list. And then that becomes entirely arbitrary. So that becomes an ideological / political decision-making process. And that's entirely outside of what British law is all about. We've had the Magna Carta since 2015. And the Magna Carta said, basically, that it doesn't matter if you're the King of England, you're not allowed to go and enter somebody's house and enter somebody's private space and get in their face, except where there's been a crime. But we've trampled all over the reeds of Runnymede. We've trampled all over Magna Carta because we now have this out of control private limited company called the College of Policing. By the way, it's a private limited company like Specsavers, who are issuing these crazy diktats to our.
Yeah, I never heard of it before. What?
Yeah, few people had.
I only heard of it when I started following Fair Cop. So when I
yeah.
followed Fair
Well,
Cop on Twitter, that's when I heard of the College of Policing. So I didn't know what that was and what they do and what even is their role. Like, I didn't even know there were such things as hate crime ambassadors. To me, it sounds like a school prefect, you know, somebody who just gets like a little badge and goes around being a nuisance, basically.
yeah,
Not that
absolutely.
I hated the school prefects, but that's the stereotype, you know.
Yeah, these are ideological milk monitors. That's what they are. They're absolutely terrible. Yeah, the College of Policing. Who knew it even existed? Nobody knew it existed. But you know what? It employs 650 people. 650 people. It's got a wage bill of 39 million. So we did the basic maths. That's £56,000 per person. It's paying 56,000. An average copper is on less than 30,000.
What qualifications do you need to have to be in the College of Policing?
The college, who knows? Absolutely no idea. We had a College of Policing whistleblower.
I might look into it.
We had a College of Policing whistleblower write to us and said that the College of Policing was filled with failed inspectors and useless academics. And I think it's true. You know, it's they're a hate factory. They literally trawl for hate. They look for hate everywhere. And in their guidance, it says that reducing hate is not a target. The target is to increase the recording of hate. Increase it. What kind of police force has as the target increasing burglaries or increasing theft or increasing murder? But these people want an increase in hate. Of course, they say they don't want to increase the hate. They just want to increase the recording of hate. But that's nonsense. They're generating hate because everything is hateful. Everything is hateful, and that's why.
Yeah, I would say that the atmosphere around what hate speech is and things like that. I mean, I first heard of it on social media, and I would say the atmosphere around it is what's causing a lot of tension and making things worse, because now you've got people that are potentially predisposed to being on the lookout for that sort of thing, that want to maybe consider themselves as a bit of a hero on the right side of history and all that. And they're going to be really coming down hard, especially on women online who speak up for their rights or speak the truth. But because they've now got this leverage in saying that it's hate, they can go after it. And I think it makes the whole situation even more hateful.
It is. Well, PC Gull has spent this last year having visited me. One day we found that he was bragging about it, that he'd been to I think visiting the bakers of Humberside, teaching the bakers of Humberside about hate, and it was like I think a half-day seminar. Well, hold on a minute. What do you mean teaching the bakers of Humberside about hate? Who does that? Well, what he was doing, in actual fact, was teaching them to recognise if they'd had a hate incident against them. So, you know, recognizing unconscious bias or the wrong use of pronouns or this, that, and the other, because their target is to increase the recording of hate. So you do that by making people aware of what hate is and having such a broad definition that anybody who says boo to you, anybody who crosses you ideologically, anybody who offends your thinking in any way, that's hate. That's hate. Get it written down, record it. That's what the police are doing, and that's what we're up against.
I had noticed that the hate incidences for trans crime incidences that people against trans people have gone up significantly, and I did wonder if that was more to do with people being reported for saying things that trans rights activists don't agree with. And I wouldn't consider that a hate crime, and I would say it's doing a disservice to the honest recording of crimes against certain groups in society that might need to be recorded truthfully so that we can see the situation.
I agree. If I was the family of Stephen Lawrence, I would be going absolutely ape over this, because the gender ideologists, Stonewall and that ilk, they've stolen the very good lessons of the McPherson report in relation to police failures with respect to the death of Stephen Lawrence and the general failure of the police with regard to the BAME community. They've appropriated those lessons for themselves and screamed, but we're a victim too, we're a victim too. And that's all you ever hear about. Have you ever seen a BAME flag flying outside a police station? Have you ever seen a Black Lives Matter symbol down a police car? No, of course you haven't. But you can't turn around.
You don't see the suffragette flag at the police station.
No, you don't see any of it because they've been the entire thing has been hijacked by a bunch of crybaby idiots who just scream me, what about me? And for whatever reason, the police have been not only been captured, but they're paying for the privilege. The police forces are paying £2,500 each to be members of the Stonewall Champions program. What? So the police are paying to become a Stonewall billboard is what's happening. The police are paying to advertise Stonewall. I mean, why on earth does a police force need to be a member of the Stonewall Champions program? We asked the police forces why they felt the need. Yeah, well, they said we're part of the Champions program in order to abide by our equality and diversity policies. No, you don't need to be a member of Stonewall. Equality law has been in place since 2010. Just be like a normal person and obey the law. You don't need to outsource your obedience to the law. Just obey the bloody law. That's my view.
Yeah, we don't need people. We don't need people to. I've actually heard a little bit about how there's sort of like this narrative going around that potentially we could be committing hate crime in our own homes by what we say.
Yeah. Well, that was a law.
I found that really
proposal.
Scary.
Yeah, well, that was a law commission proposal, which thankfully the Free Speech Union and Fair Cop did a lot of work around exposing that, and it looks like the law commission for now, at least, have dropped that one. Yeah, because let's face it, the things that you said around the dinner table. Or have you ever played Cards Against Humanity?
Yeah.
Birdie. Yeah. Well, there's 1,000 hate crimes going on there every time you pull out the game. I mean, all it takes is one person. Yeah.
The whole game.
The whole
cancel
game.
it.
Yeah, cancel it. All it takes would be one person who didn't like it, who thought it was tasteless, and boom, that'd be it. That'd be it. Now, thankfully, the law commission have had their arse handed to them on a plate with regard to that one. For now, at least. I mean, I'm glad I'm not north of the Scottish border. Yeah, because over there they are really
worry about it.
Crazy. Well, yeah, absolutely. You're right to worry about it, and that's why I would encourage everybody. It doesn't matter whether you dislike me. It doesn't matter whether you didn't like my "Say Yes to Hate" hashtag, or you didn't like my stance on COVID.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Or any of the things that I've done that you might not personally like. Forget all that. This is important. We need to crush the College of Policing's hate crime guidance, because they will come after you. They will come after you. So it's not about me. You don't have to like me. You can hate me. You're free to hate me. I say yes to hating Harry Miller. That's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with it.
I remember your "I say yes to hate" thing. That really sort of. I remember it because I understood it because we talked about it, but I knew straight away that people were just going to look at it and just bite into it and go, "Harry's evil, look what he's doing," or "Fair copper bastards, look how horrible they are. They're saying yes to hate." And I don't think that there's people are not willing to assume better of anybody. They assume the worst straight away, and there's no benefit of a doubt, and it goes straight to that. Nobody wanted to ask what is this about. No, everybody just went, "This is awful." And it's, as a phase on its own, I can see why people would mislead themselves and mislead others with it, but I do think people should give things the benefit of the doubt and ask what this is about before they go straight into this is the worst thing ever. And I think we've lost that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, when we say yes to hate, okay. I mean, one, it was directed at a police force because they were using the so-called Trans Day of Remembrance thing again to encourage people to report hate, non-crime hate incidents. So that's the first thing. That's the context. Secondly, is the definition of hate. So, do we say yes to antagonism? Well, of course we do. Do we say yes to unfriendliness? Well, absolutely, of course we do. Do we say yes to ill will? Well, if you've ever wanted a party not to win, then you're saying yes to ill will because you don't wish them well. You wish that if you're a Labour supporter, you want the Tory party to go to hell. Okay, so we're saying yes to that. Dislike. Well, of course we're free to bloody well dislike. Spite. Spite is the thing that priests should be interested in, not the police. So saying yes to hate is saying yes to antagonism, ill will, unfriendliness, dislike. That's what I'm saying. The problem is not with me saying yes to hate. The problem is with the definition of hate. And if it raises people's awareness of what the definition is, then I've done my job. It doesn't matter that people get offended by me.
I would go as far as to say that the reason people took that the way they did is because they're thinking of what their definition of hate is and not what the police definition of hate is. So they're thinking of all the worst things they can think of.
Yeah, that is what hate is. So of course we say no to that kind of hate, but change the definition of hate in the College of Police guidelines, and then I will say #say no to hate. But I am not going to say no to those everyday human emotions. I mean, why not say no to jealousy? Why not have jealousy laws? Why not have envy laws? Because we can make a direct link between envy and theft. Yeah, jealousy laws. We can make a direct link between jealousy and violence. So why hate? It's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. The kind of hate that Macpherson imagined was the kind of uncontrolled rage and bigotry which, for want of an opportunity, would like to express itself as punching somebody in the face purely because they happen to be black or disabled or old or a woman. That's what he imagined. But the police have watered it down to this absolute nonsensical set of words, which I'm sorry, but I'm free to dislike. I'm free to be unfriendly, and I'm definitely free to be antagonistic. So screw you. Say yes to hate. I'm totally unapologetic about it.
I'm glad that you're unapologetic because, like you said before, it got the attention on the things you wanted it to discuss. You wanted to talk about it more, and it did bring a lot of attention to what you were doing. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in the long run.
No, it's not. It was a strategic thing. I mean, it raised awareness, but lost me friends. But I don't care. It doesn't matter that you don't like me. It doesn't matter that you think that my language should have been more temperate. It doesn't matter that it can be taken the wrong way because I'm not challenging the every person definition of what hate is. I'm challenging the police definition of hate. That's what we're all about. That's what Fair Cop is all about. So there we go.
So
Birdie.
what are you hoping to? Sorry, what are you hoping to achieve with this court case? Then with this.
Well, okay. Well, what we're saying is that the College of Police guidelines around hate.
What do you want the outcome to be?
We want it ripping up. The college,
so you're not challenging the
rewriting.
You're not challenging the existence. Oh, sorry, you're not challenging the existence of the College of Policing. Then it's just this specific.
No, the guidance.
Guideline.
Yeah, the guidance. Because now this is where it gets really scary. Because since our challenge last year, the College of Policing have reissued guidance in October 2020, and they've now taken their long accusatory fingers into schools, so that now, whereas before October, anything that went on in the school was not a matter for the police. Since October 2020, it's now recordable by the police. So you get some 15-year-old who says something that they
I think that's
say.
really concerning, because here's one.
Yeah. You get a 15-year-old girl who doesn't want
that's not on.
to share a
I'll tell you why
changing
it's
room.
concerning.
Go on, Birdie. Tell me why.
Oh, I was going to say that one of the reasons we're overlapping a little bit. One of the reasons why it's concerning is it just sprung to mind that I remember all my friends or people that I talk to, being in the UK, we always say that it's a little bit scary that the police are involved in schools in America, because they have police and security and things like that on school because of the gun crimes that have happened. So there's an arguably legitimate reason for them to have police involved in schools. But over here, we've got police involved in schools because of speech and opinion. It doesn't make sense to me.
It's not. It's wrong. And this is the College of Policing. They're absolutely out of control. You can't even be a young person now and say something that's not ideologically correct, because it'll be on your record for 6 years. So that's important. When you're a 15-year-old or even a 14-year-old, then you're going to be 6 years' time from being 14 to 15. You're going to be applying for a job, and it's at that point it's going to be at the discretion of the chief constable whether or not they reveal that you're a hater to your potential employer. That's just terrible. It's just absolutely, utterly wrong, and that's why we need to destroy this guidance.
Yeah.
We've got to destroy it. We've got to destroy it. It's
I can see so many things going wrong with this.
They've also now included, so transvestism is now a protected characteristic according to the College of Police guidance. If you're part of a sectarian religious group like the DUP or Sinn Féin or whatever, Al Qaeda, you are now protected. You're now protected. It specifically says that sectarian religious groups, criticism of them, antagonism towards them, unfriendliness towards them, dislike of them, these are recordable as non-crime hate incidents. That's just utterly bonkers and dangerous.
But I don't understand how, if you're a young kid and these laws are coming in and this is coming into schools, how are you supposed to develop your views and think for yourself if you can't even make a mistake? You can't even say something. You can't step out of line. And stepping out of line is sometimes good for people because they learn where that line is. And some people, that's the only way they learn. For some of us, for some people, they learn by watching, or they just take in the social cues. Some people don't take in social cues so easily, and they have to take their time into adulthood, for some, to learn, where the line of acceptability is for those around them and for themselves and what they think. You bounce that off of each other. You don't. You don't learn that in accordance to what the law says you're allowed to think or say.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's the way it's going. It's a mistake to think that our education system wants to teach kids how to think critically. It doesn't. It wants them to come out a certain shape from the cookie cutter, with a certain set of beliefs, and that's it. It's terrible. The idea that you can critically think, it's gone. It's gone. We don't teach critical thinking, because part and parcel of critical thinking is the ability. You've got to have the ability to make horrible mistakes, to be able to argue the inarguable. That's what being a kid is all about. Okay, you're supposed to be able to stand on a chair and make an argument that is complete and utter nonsense, and which your 25-year-old self is going to be going, "Oh my God, I can't believe that I used to think that. I cannot believe that I said that. I can't believe that I argued that." But of course, now the fact that you argued it back when you were 14 or 15 or 16 is now going to be on a police bloody record. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't give people a lot of room for growth. It doesn't, because basically the beauty of looking back when you're a teenager or a young adult and cringing at what some of the things you might have thought or said back then is
Exactly.
knowing that you've evolved and, you know, evolving and growing up and changing your mind and learning new things is a great thing to do. And being able to look back and say, I'm a better person today than I was 10 years ago is great. And how do people get that self-growth and evolution within themselves if they're not given the room to grow? Stifling people.
Yeah, you cannot have. I mean, we used to, when I was at school, we had debates all the time. We had debates on capital punishment, debates on corporal punishment, debates on race,
Yeah.
debates on religion. Everything was open. And I think back to some of the things that I said, and they were crazy. I mean, but I was 14. You say stupid, you say dumb shit when you're 14, 15, and 16. Look, you say dumb shit when you're 20, 21, 22. If you're me, you say dumb shit in your 50s. But that's because all the time we're sort of, you know, we're trying to work out. If you're a good person and you're a curious person, you try and all the time work out, you know, what's right here, what's the right way to go here. And I just always look the other side of the Overton window. I've always been one to go, well, I'm not entirely sure about that. I think I'm not sure about this. I'm gonna have a little look.
I keep hearing about the Overton window, and I keep forgetting to look it up. What is it?
Okay, the Overton window it defines the parameters of acceptable discussion. So within the Overton window, let's say is whether we should have a Tory Tory government or a Labour government. That's acceptable. Whether women have penises, well, I think that is well within the Overton window, but some people say it's not. Some people would say that's like discussing whether or not the Holocaust actually happened. In other words, it's outside of the parameters of reasonable discussion. But the ideologues are always trying to close the Overton window so that no debate. You can't debate pronouns. You can't debate gender identity. You can't debate race. You can't debate immigration. You can't debate any of these things because it makes you an evil, literal Nazi. So that's the Overton window.
But like the reason we've come this far as the human race is because we do think about things outside of the so-called Overton window, and discussion about those things is what made us interesting as a species, I think.
Well, Copernicus suggesting, of all things, that the Earth went round the sun. That was well and truly outside of the Overton window. You got into trouble for
he got his ass kicked for that, didn't he?
Yeah. Absolutely. Translating the Bible into English was outside of the Overton window. The printing press was outside of the Overton window.
Yeah, there's lots of things like that that's happened. I love history. I don't have like the best memory. I was never that great in school either. So, but I do love hearing the stories in history of things like that. I remember when during the Renaissance in Italy, and they changed from painting the center of the painting being God to the center of the painting being man or a person, and that weren't cool. That weren't cool.
Absolutely.
Everyone back then went, what the fuck is this shit?
But we burn our heretics. You know, we should have gone past burning our bloody heretics because it relies on heretics for progress. And I always say this: even if I'm wrong, even if trans women are women, even if history shows that I was on entirely the wrong side of history, and you were Birdie too, doesn't matter. We still serve a very, very useful and necessary purpose in that we challenge whatever the new orthodoxy and the new idea is. You need us. Even if we're wrong, you need us. You need us. And we're not wrong, by the way. But even if we were, you still need us.
I know we're not wrong.
That's how. No, of course not. But that's how progress works.
I think I rub people up the wrong way because I know I'm not wrong. I think they see it as me being smug, but I just I can't.
What was it? What was it you were called the other day, Bernie?
A skanky, mouthy little chap.
A skanky
And I got
mouthy
told
little
I need a
chap.
wash. I was like, fucking hell.
Really?
And the worst bit is, yeah, I got the person wrote, "Your skanky mouthy little chav, you need a good wash." And I was looking at it thinking, fucking hell, I've had a wash. What are you on about? Like, and the picture they did it on, I was well clean. I was all scrubbed up.
If Carlsberg did insults, that's a brilliant one, isn't it? And I just love your reaction to it.
It's
Yeah,
great.
turn it into a bit of artwork. I think it's superb. And I think that was my earphones are about to die. I just heard it. Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
So do you think people are bored with? People are bored with talking?
Okay, well, we've had a good run.
Haven't we?
With well, I'll rewatch this and I don't think I need to cut any of it, to be honest. I think it's a good chat. I think we could chat for longer, maybe do another one another time, but I would like you to round up what you want to say about your crowd justice and your case against the College of Policing guidelines as well. Anything you want people to know, what the deadlines are on your crowd justice, anything like that, I want you to shout it out.
Okay, well, I just need people to go to Google Harry Miller Crowd Justice, find that page and give what you can or share the link because we're 2 weeks away from being in the Court of Appeal and we're going to need a shed load more money. I mean, I think we've raised something like 85 or 87,000 so far, but all of that's been spent in round one.
Which is really good.
That's all gone. That's all gone. What I have said is that in the event that we win, we'll get all that money back and we will then be able to repurpose it to a similar case. So I've already spoken to one or two people about where that money would go, and it's all based around challenging the police, challenging Stonewall, and protecting our kids from the thought police. So, support us if you can. I'll tell you what, Bernie. I just want to say, I think you are an absolute breath of fresh air to this movement, and I fully expect your YouTube channel to do incredibly well because I think you've got it all, mate. I think you're absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
On.
I'm frightened of what I've done because I started off so strong, and I'm like, oh fuck, I've got to top that now. I've got to do something just as good. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
I think but that's always going to be a thing in my head. Always. I'm like that with my art. What
you've done so well. If your art's anything to go by, I mean, you just get you've got a consistency in quality that is incredibly admirable. We love it. You're very popular, Birdie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, that's because no one's met me in real life.
Right, all right then, mate.
Shall we call this a wrap then? Because your headphones are going to go, aren't they?
They are, mate.
It's been a really good chat, though. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. And say hi to Doos. I'm looking forward to buying you both a pint.
I will.
You'll clap your shit.
You're ugly. Oi, you, skank.